Representative Cruz moves to call from the calendar House Bill 989 on the notice given list.
Without objection.
House Bill 989 by Representative Cruz, Title 40, minors who undergo abortions report a certain information.
All right, Representative Cruz.
Members, this bill is really just kind of an additional procedures bill. For last bill, we passed a bill on judicial bypass, and this bill, what it does is prescribe certain forms, because the way judicial bypass is done now, it is sending the minor to where they live instead of across the state, which was happening before. And those judges don't always have all the information or understand the whole process. So this is a attempt to clarify it for them, provide them some resources, some guidance on what questions they should ask. It provides for confidentiality. It says the hearing's got to be held within 4 days. It requires medical and mental health evaluation of the minor to make sure they're mature enough to make this decision. And it also prescribes a 10-day expiration. So you meet the judge, they make their determination, then you have 10 days to go forth. Its real intent is to protect the safety and well-being of minors seeking abortions, whether it be through parental consent or judicial bypass. So there are two methods to do it. If the parents approve, you can do this already, but judicial bypass can be done without a parent's consent or knowledge. So this is kind of making that a process more sped out to the court. And it also sets up an appeals process if the minor doesn't like or agree with the decision. Welcome to have any questions.
All right, Representative Landry for a question.
Rep. Cruz, we talked about this yesterday, and I made a comment that your bill last year gutted this procedure, and you confirmed that there was only one judicial bypass, I believe, from August through December. So is your goal here 0?
Is it what?
Is your goal 0 judicial bypass procedures in Louisiana?
My goal is to save the ladies and the babies as much as possible. What was happening is a lot of people were coming from out of state to seek that in Louisiana. And I don't think that's a great thing for Louisiana to provide for that. But that was last year's bill. This is simply to make it more clear for the judges that are administering the hearing of what they should do and what they should consider.
Well, that's the first I've heard you say that people were coming from out of state, and I'm not sure that's true, given that last year's law gutted the procedure. So considering there was one in the fall, is the intent here to drop that to 0?
You know, if that happened, I would not be opposed, but this really is to make sure we protect against different things. Well, for once, one thing in here in this bill, it addresses the idea of a child maybe being trafficked, and it has provisions for that, or maybe a child being abused, and it has provisions for that. So we're looking out for the minor too, and that's the real goal of the bill.
Well, trafficking is a crime, is that correct?
Pardon?
Trafficking is already a crime.
It sure is.
Is that correct? Right. Had you received feedback from any minors or judges in regard to your bill from last year?
I did.
Okay, and what was that?
Not from any minors, believe it or not, but the judges came and said that it had dropped the incidence of people seeking judicial bypass, and the ones I know of, it was because those were coming from out of state, and now the law says it's got to be from that parish or an adjoining parish.
Okay, I'll come talk to you about that after, because this is the first I've heard for this. Under our law right now, there's a 5-day window that the judge has to hear, has to make a decision. How is the minor going to go through getting a medical professional, a mental health professional, and I think a lawyer has to be appointed? Is that going to be possible within 4 days?
A lawyer is an option there, but this is something that their court's required to set up there, so I don't see that being a difficulty. It says the court shall require the minor to participate in an evaluation with a medical professional. This is all done by LDH and a mental health professional from the Department of Health, Office of Behavioral Health, or a staff member from the Department of DCFS, or both. This is under page 2, second to last paragraph.
So LDH has to provide for all of this in all 64 parishes if requested?
Yes, if requested.
Okay. And who's going to pay for the medical evaluations? Is that the state?
I believe so. I didn't, the fiscal note was 0. I did order that for you, but that was not in there.
Well, that's because we only had one minor request it. Is that correct?
As far as I know,
Right, because it's
for the
difficult.
last 3.5 months.
And this is my final question. So the bill says that the court order expires in 10 days. Well, so two-part question. So is there a reason that you chose 10 days?
That was considered to be the best for the health of the minor because, of course, pregnancy continues and the baby gets larger. So it's just they wanted to make sure that the health of the mother was considered, and it was made in a timely fashion.
So when you drafted this, did you know that the wait list for a first appointment at one of the 3 clinics in the state is about 2 to 3 weeks right now?
No.
So it seems like it's virtually impossible if someone goes through this laborious process and gets the order to have that appointment within 10 days. I guess my question is, did you know that there was that limitation on the timing of the appointments?
That had not been mentioned to me, no.
Okay, one last question. I'm serious on this one. Did you speak to any judges about this particular bill, or did you have any judges review it?
I did.
Okay, I'll come ask you a question. Thanks.
All right, Representative Amy Freeman for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Cruz, did you know there is already a law against a coerced abortion of a minor? Representative Edmonston passed it. I think it was Representative Hodges, sorry, that passed it into law, because Representative Hodges,
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little?
did you know there is already a law against a coerced
This
abortion?
isn't a law against it. This is trying to make the courts more aware that that's a possibility, to consider it and evaluate that potential.
Because it's referencing the Children's Code, and it's talking about coercion of abortion on page, I'm on page 3 of 13. And I learned that when I was in civil law for a different purpose. But also when it talks about the minor being interviewed about pregnancy, fetal development, abortion risks, consequences, indicators of human trafficking, and abortion alternatives, which is on page 3, lines about 4 to 8 that I'm looking at. Is there any attempt to find out if this minor child was raped or a victim of incest?
Yes, that's part of this bill also.
Okay, so where is that? Because we know that DCFS has a problem with children who are 11 and 12 years old and sometimes being raped by a family member. So it's very important to me to know that somebody's going to be considering that when they speak to the minor.
Well, it speaks a little bit more. I'm not finding the reference I'm talking about, but it says endeavor to verify that the minor is seeking an abortion of her own free will and not acting under intimidation, threats, abuse, undue pressure, extortion by any other persons, is not a victim of a coerced abortion.
But is there anything to be discussed to know whether this minor child was raped or the victim of incest?
I don't know as incest is specifically mentioned, nor rape. No, I
Would
don't know.
would you consider having a conversation with me about that and amending the bill appropriately? Because we drew so much to protect the children of this state, and DCFS is having a hard time. I'm sure you've seen some of the hearings and some of the things that have happened to children in our state that are really horrific. And it is my opinion, did you know it's my opinion that you should not force an 11 or 12-year-old child to carry a pregnancy that's of incest or rape. So it would be a horrific sentence to a young child specifically.
I understand your concern there. I'll definitely be willing to talk with you, but I think I should get it over to the Senate and work on it there. So I'd be happy to entertain that amendment between here and there.
I absolutely think it's very important that we have that as part of the conversation, especially in light of the leaked memo from the Supreme Court, because we need to protect all the minor children in this state, and that is a duty. Did you know? I believe it's a duty of us as a legislature to protect all the minor children of the state.
Right, but the goal of this is to protect minors, and it goes towards that goal even without the provision you're talking about. So this is already an advance over that. It's an advance towards protecting the health of the minor, even without all the additional things you're talking about.
But did you know if we don't add the language about incest and rape specifically, we might be missing out on some kids who really need our help?
And that's why I'm willing to talk to you after this.
I would very much appreciate that.
Okay?
I still can't support the bill, but I would appreciate having that in the bill. Thank you.
Understand?
All right, Madam Clerk, let's take up the amendment.
Representative Cruz offers up a one-page set of amendments, 4617.
All right, on your amendment.
Members, this was something to address some clerk concerns here. It says the clerk may communicate with another clerk regarding the existence or non-existence of another bypass application, provided that the clerks try to maintain the confidentiality of the application. This is when the clerks are reading the bill, they're like, well, you know, we need to find out if this minor's trying to do this somewhere else, but we want to make sure we're protected while we're trying to ensure that security is
All right,
pursued.
any objection to the adoption of the amendment? Seeing none, the amendment is adopted. Back on the bill. There are no questions on the bill. Representative Cruz moves final passage. All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. The clerk will open the machine. Members, vote your machines. Vote your machines, members. Green, no. Miguez, yes. Mike Johnson, yes. Emerson, yes. Jordan, no. Newell, no. You through voting? All right, close them up. 67 yeas, 20 nays, and the bill is finally passed. Representative Cruz moves to adopt the title, moves to reconsider the vote by which the bill finally passes. Lay that motion on the table without objection, so ordered. Open it up for co-authors. No co-authors, members. Vote your machines for co-authors. All right, close it up. Emerson, the co-author.